The industry, man, it's not the same. Doesn't have to do with talent. It's about playing the game. The industry, real niggas is dying to get in. The industry, justifying they don't fit in. The industry ain't what it used to be. The industry's trying to control the way you MC. They want you to dress like this and talk like that. But I'm going to dress like this and talk with the bat. The industry got your word meaning nothing. The industry, fuck what you heard because he's bluffing. The industry, money, bitches, hate, but I dare you to try to take a fucking thing off my plate. The industry like, wait, but in the streets we like, get 'em. 17 up in that thing, catch 'em sleeping and hit 'em. The industry, if you ain't got a strong mind, the industry will break you down. It's a matter of time. The industry, vultures with nothing to feast on. See me, I'm getting my beast on. The industry, stay in the dirt, play in the dirt, test the wrong one in the industry and you will get hurt. I'm not an industry artist. I'm an artist in the industry. So I do what the fuck I want because nobody can finish me. The industry, wanted, dead or alive, new artists to sell their souls in the way they survive. The industry don't give a fuck about you. But the industry couldn't make a dime without you. The industry, I'm sick of this industry shit. The industry playing them like a industry bitch. They tried to finish me quick, but I am long, so I stand strong. Fuck a beat. Listen to the words in the damn song.
It's an evil world we live in.
I've got a secret.
I worship the devil.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
You're doing these songs, you know, you're still on tour.
I do, but I don't take it for granted.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I mean, I made a bargain with it, you know, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander on this earth, and this earth, and then in a world we can't see. Hey, Chavis, how come they ain't killing us? 'Cause we're in the spirit world, asshole. They can't see us.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. Lisa came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
I did a song called Fortunate Fan. And it's like the hook goes.
One thing we all adore, something worth dying for. Nothing but pain, stuck in this game, searching for fortune.
Fame, something we all adore. The one thing we dying for.
Nothing but pain, stuck in this game.
Searching for fortune and fame. That's what I hear. It's so basic that we all want to be famous and noticed and watched, and we all want money and riches, and we all want to find us out of life from a
Lucifer, son of the morning, I'm gonna chase you out of earth.
I kind of sang about, you know, what was going on in my life at 15, and that's how I got introduced to the music industry. I swear I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music. Yeah. But it didn't work out.
So I sold my soul to the devil.
Yeah, well, sometimes they don't want to, and they're, you know, Gaga, we can't get, you know, the frequency's weird, and, you know, it's sounding a little bit strange, and I'm like,
If you don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer, I'm gonna...
I am misunderstood a lot at times. My music, my image, people have their whole thing about me, whether it be me being a devil worshiper or whatever. Besides them reading into my hand over my eye on my album cover.
Why is your hand over your eye on your album?
Because I'm a devil worshiper, what are you talking about?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Hold on, let me explain something to them real quick. Before everybody starts screaming and saying, oh, like I told y'all earlier, you motherfuckers entered the rapture. And if ain't nobody flying up to heaven right now, obviously all y'all motherfuckers going to hell. Right with me. So, let's get it. Oh, you already here. I'm so sorry. You can't get out. You're stuck. It's over. You heard the song 1,000,000 times and you didn't even know. That's up, but I still love you.
What did he say?
They are come unto the city to take it. And the city is given into the hands of the Chaldeans that fight against it, because of the sword, and of the famine, and of the pestilence. And what thou hast spoken is come to pass, and behold, thou seest it. And thou hast said unto me, O Lord God, buy thee the field for money, and take witnesses, for the city is given into the hand of the Chaldeans. Then came the word of the Lord unto Jeremiah, saying, Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me? Therefore thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will give this city into the hands of the Chaldeans, and into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he shall take it. And the Chaldeans that fight against this city shall come and set fire on this city, and burn it with the houses, upon whose roofs they have offered incense unto Baal, and poured out drink offerings unto other gods, to provoke me to anger. For the children of Israel and the children of Judah have only done evil before me from their youth. For the children of Israel have only provoked me to anger with the work of their hands, saith the Lord. Once again, this daily random read comes from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 32, from verses 16 through 30, entitled, Ways of Men, and Israel obeyed not God's voice. Good afternoon, I presume. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the country, and welcome to another episode of Go Back to Sleep with my co-host over here on the screen, as you see, Mr. Java himself. Would you like to say hello to the peoples out there?
How's it going, fam? Hope all is well.
I apologize for that popping, crackling sound. We were having some issues in the beginning as well. And I think, you know, the Apple devices just recently had an update, but I did not update this laptop. So that could probably be one of the reasons why it's having audio troubles. But I'm assuming that we're good right now on the audio, right?
Yeah, as far as I can tell.
Okay. So anyhow, man, I got a little testimony to share before we even go through this whole thing with today's show. But okay, so my wife, she's not a believer, right? But she picked that read today. Like, I told her, here, just open the book and put your finger where it may land. And she picked that. And I read it, and I said to myself, holy macro, dude. This is just one of those things that God has sent a message because of, the attacks from was it yesterday, or was it like 2 nights ago? It was 2 nights ago, right? In Israel?
Oh, yeah.
So I said to myself, wow, I asked my wife, I said, hey, do you realize what you just picked? Because this is really powerful stuff. And, she just gave me this look like, I don't know, like, what are you talking about? So, I kind of said, wow, thank you, Lord. You're definitely giving messages, and I'm grateful for that. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that she picked that, like, randomly. So yeah, man, it's been crazy. All these things that are going on outside of the U.S., but it's not even being reported, and it's greatly going to affect this country as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing with in the Middle East is kind of, I thought biblical right away. I was like, well, that's biblical.
Well, even prior to that, the whole thing with Russia and Ukraine, and it seems to me that there's a lot of movement going out on that region of the world. And I heard that Putin is supposed to be meeting Xi Jinping sometime this month for who knows what. And I honestly think that this whole thing is going to be all these events. I can't say certain words here because YouTube's right. All these certain events are just going to happen all at the same time, I think. And just based on, and I know this is not a political channel, but you know, sometimes when I notice things that pertain to biblical stuff, you can't avoid it. But I honestly think that this country is not prepared for what's to come. You know what I mean? I honestly think we're not prepared. We're so broken here that we're not prepared. You know?
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I hope that I'm able to survive if things really hit the fan, you know? Anyhow. So today we're going to be talking about Darkman X, also known as DMX. And I found it interesting with this particular artist, and he's definitely in my top. He's definitely in my top 5 rappers of all time, even though I don't really listen to secular music the same way I used to. I can't enjoy it, but there's something very, very interesting about DMX. You know, he has this type of duality where it's clearly it's good and evil, because he would have songs that talk about just pure dark evil, and then on the other extreme of the side, he's saying prayers and having to glorify God, which is very, I don't know, to me it doesn't seem biblically sound to have that kind of duality. If you're really in Christ, you're walking on one side, because evil cannot exist. It cannot exist in the same realm as good. So I just thought that was a very interesting thing, and I think a lot of that had to do with his drug use. And my understanding too, he was abused as a child, that he went through different kinds of foster homes, foster homes. He went through that system, and definitely that system can break children. It's very, very difficult for children to get out of that
like
system.
it can mess up your psyche and open you up for MK Ultra type stuff, actually, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very rare for somebody to go through that system and then kind of get out of it, learning from it and knowing that that's not a good place to be, and trying to change, you know, your family's living and not repeating history. I like to use myself as a testimony, because that's the only testimony I've got. Like, I came from a broken home, but I didn't take that that experience and say to myself, oh, I'm a victim and I'm just going to be one of the statistics. No, I did the opposite. I knew how it destroyed a child's mind. I knew how unstable a child can grow. And from that, I fixed it. I said to myself, I'm not going to let my children go through that. So after 24 years of marriage, I'm still together with my wife and with my children. So praise God for that, you know?
Yeah, you made it through. Made it through the fire.
I mean, I didn't go through anything like DMX did, but still, you know, people have a choice. I think whether they want to continue on in that lost path, or if they want to stop the history repeating itself. And I chose to stop history repeating itself. And like
that's awesome. That's very challenging to do.
It is. You know, there were many times where, I mean, I'm not saying that I was a saint, dude, because I did so many things, man, and even to this day, I still think I was protected by the hand of God. Not that He allowed me to do certain bad things, but I think there was a purpose for me to go through things and kind of be covered, for me to realize that, yeah, that was wrong, or I definitely have to thank God for at least protecting me from going further deeper into whatever I was into. So, yeah, man. And that's why I am the way I am today, especially when it comes to preaching the gospel. That's just why I am so passionate about it, because I've been given a chance. And unfortunately for DMX, I know he was struggling, man. He would have his times where you'd see videos of him praising God and saying that, you know, he's done with drugs and all that stuff, and then you'll see him bounce back into the old him. So he definitely was having an internal battle within himself.
Conflict, yeah.
Yeah. There was definitely a spirit of duality living within him, because he couldn't make up where he was going to go. And you know, at least in my thinking, or even just because of me being where I'm at in my life now, I honestly don't think that evil can dwell in the same place as good. It's two separate entities, and you got to pick one or the other. You can't bounce back and forth. I mean, yeah, you can fall with sin, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay to keep on going down that route. You know, at some point in time, the good works within you, and then things start to grow out where you just want to go in the good direction, and you despise the bad direction. That's just what I've noticed in my journey. You know, it's weird because I used to cuss a lot, man. Like every other word would be every dirty word there is. Even with the jokes that I would make would be off-colored jokes, and I had very dark humor, but I can't even stand those kind of jokes now because I don't know. I really don't know how this transformation is going, but it's transforming. It's definitely changing me, man. I mean, the only thing I can say that, I mean, on top of a lot of other things out there, I think there are things where I still have to work on. Women in particular is one of my biggest weaknesses. I have a wandering eye, and I still, from time to time, I tend to catch myself saying, "Man, that girl looks so good," and I'm guilty. You know, I'm guilty of that. You know, that's one of the things that I still deal with. But it's a work in progress, and I think God will work with me, slowly but surely. I think I'll get there where everything will be not a struggle anymore. So, yeah, man, that's, you know, I know I'm talking a lot here, but I like to use myself as an example.
It's good though, because God works into all the facets of our lives and transforms each area. And sometimes with, you know, one area at a time. Sometimes some of the areas don't need that much change, and they could be, you know, shifted quickly or whatever. But, you know,
yeah,
the project's never left totally finished.
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree. And this is one of the reasons why I've started living my life day by day, you know, because if I start to go ahead of myself, man, my expectations are going to be so high that I'd be disappointed because I didn't hit my expectation. So for me, the easiest thing to do is just live day by day and just go step by step throughout the whole way. And I had to learn the hard way that this is all, it's a journey. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You know, you have to take,
exactly.
If you have to crawl first, then you have to crawl first. And then if you have to walk from there, then walk at your own pace, and then jog. And eventually you'll get better as time goes on. And as time goes on, where God is able to blossom you into the fruit that he wants you to. But I absolutely see a lot of growth within me. And I'm not saying this in a boastful way, but I can honestly say to myself, I can step out of myself and see the difference between the old me and the me that I am today. And unfortunately for DMX, he wasn't able to do that. And he had a very long road. But, you know, in his situation, he was kind of destined for failure because, for one, he didn't even have parents that cared for him. You know, my understanding is, I think he lived with his grandmother, but even that wasn't enough for him to grow as a good fruit. You know, he was bounced around with different types of people who probably abused him, and not to mention that he was probably in the home with other broken children who led him the wrong way, and instead of having to find the answer through Christ, he goes through substance abuse, and it definitely opens you up to spiritual attacks, to different types of demons.
Yeah. Yep. That type of certain substances definitely open the body up to evil influences.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. And people may make the argument, oh, it's just weed. And I'm not trying to condemn anybody here who does that. It's your choice what you want to do. But as for me, and as for my children, I definitely don't want them spiritually vulnerable for any kind of bad influences to come on into them. I've learned that through my own experience, because I used to smoke a whole bunch of weed before, like in my late teens and my early 20s. I smoked. Man, I would hang. You know how that movie Friday? That's exactly how it was every day of my life. We just hung out at my buddy's house, and we just smoked weed all day. Talked about chicks, talked about a lot of nonsensical stuff, and that's all we did. That's all I did when I was young. But I definitely can attest to it being definitely a way of your mind being consumed by a spirit that is not a good spirit, and it won't lead you in a good place. So that's my opinion on that. And like I said, unfortunately for DMX, he may have known a lot of scriptures and all these things, because when you see his interviews, he'll say scriptures, and he'll say all these things. But if you're not living it, then what's the point of knowing it? If you know it, you should be living it, because you'll benefit from it. But he wasn't able to escape that. But I honestly think that was because of his, he was destined to fail from the get-go. And it's unfortunate, because this man, he was a brilliant man. He was brilliant with his lyrics. He was brilliant with the way his rapping. Man, I loved the way his aggressive rapping style was, because it came from a genuine place. And you knew that he had this anger in him, but not because he was thrashing out, but more like trying to wake the youth up. But unfortunately, he was just a lost soul,
Yeah, and making some of those agreements in order to advance in the industry really is hard to get out of. You can't really back out of that very easily.
Yep. A lot of there may be artists out there or musicians who may think that, oh yeah, I'll just just like in the intro video where he goes, hey man, I'm just playing the piano. I believe that a lot of them go into their whole career thinking that they'll just be the person playing the piano. But when things are presented to them, and this goes back to the flesh being weak, because first off, if you're looking for clout, like you're looking to make it big in the music industry, so of course you're going to start following these certain paths for your fame to get bigger, not realizing that there's a price to pay for this. And honestly, this song is a good example kind of that, of the song that we're going to be breaking down today, which is a very interesting song. The song that we're going to be breaking down today is called Omen. And it's interesting that how Eminem was the first person who kind of did the whole rapping about himself, talking about himself bad. You know what I mean? But DMX kind of did it differently, where he was portraying two different types of spirits. He was portraying himself. Well, in this song, he was portraying himself, and he was portraying the devil. And he was having a conversation with him and the devil. So I just thought that was when I first heard that years ago, I said, man, it's pretty interesting. But of course, I wasn't thinking about, oh yeah, this is part of the whole demonic move and all that stuff, because I was all into this kind of music. But I think he was trying to tell people out there, like, this is exactly how it is in the music industry. And I
Yeah,
think
he was trying to warn people.
yeah. And I think also, a lot of artists out there try to tell people that this is how it is, but still people want that clout so bad. They want to feed that flesh so bad that they just go ahead and dive into it as head
Yep.
first without even realizing what the cost of it is, which is very sad, I think now should be more clear than ever. You know what I mean? If these young people want to look for some kind of career in the music industry, I think they should be aware now, because it's a lot more clear how it is. But
Yeah, it's really blatant now.
it's blatant, but I honestly think that the majority of the youth, I don't think they care. And it's sad. It's very sad and unfortunate. And I think a part of that too is there has to be some kind of responsibility on the parents' part to protect them of what kind of music they listen to and all these kind of things. Because I honestly do believe that when you consume certain types of stuff, definitely you produce the same fruit. You know what I'm saying? For example, you can't live life eating junk food because you'll die, right? You'll get sick, you'll die, and all these things.
Yep.
It's the same with the music right now. I mean, look at the youth, man. I'm not saying all of them, but a great majority of just don't have any like the basic respect of elders is just not there, or the basic
Right.
respect of authority is just not there. Rather, they just rebel, and do whatever they want.
It was completely self-absorption.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like complete and total.
Yep.
More than any previous, a whole other level of it, I would say.
It's even in the 60s when it was very liberal, right? With Woodstock and all that stuff, with the music and how they were influenced by the music and all, and they're doing acid and all that stuff in Woodstock. I think it's worse now. I think it's way worse now than it was back then. Not that I grew up in the 60s, but just based on what I've observed on videos and all these things. But I honestly think that the youth now is a lot more lost than the youth were back then. And a big part of that too is the access of things, as
it's way easier to indoctrinate the youth now because you just send them to the exact apps that you want them to be brainwashed by.
Yep.
And it's over.
Yep. There definitely is a lot more channels to get influenced. You got social media, you got platforms like this, like YouTube, and all sorts of stuff, man. But I think in the base of it all, the parents were just not there. They weren't protecting their children. And I'll even go deeper and say that this is what happens when you have a godless society. People just run amok and do whatever it is that they want. So I know this conversation got more deeper than what is supposed to, but it's relatable because at the end of it all, DMX was a lost soul. And I honestly think that he was trying to change the rights of his wrong, but he just got so consumed with, I think he was just too far gone that the battle.
Then there's people that speculate, of course, that he was taken out.
That could be a possibility too, because that's what the music industry does as well.
Especially if you're trying to get out of it and rebel against the satanic contract.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. So let's go ahead and start getting into this, man. Let's go in the bio here. Let me go ahead and go to interesting conversation though, man. There's a lot of stuff on this dude, and I don't think we have enough time to go on the whole dig of things, but we'll try to share things as we can with the amount of time that we do have. Let me just share this with you, my friend. Where are we at? Here we go. Let me know if you can see it. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, let me share it with the folks out there. All right. So I'll go ahead and start it off with the first two paragraphs, and then we'll just alternate. Same old, same old. So this comes from allmusic.com, and this one is written by... Who was it written by? It doesn't even say. Oh, it does. Steve Huey. Hello, it's right there. DMX was the hardcore rap hire to Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G. The foremost Rough Rider MC was that rare commodity, a commercial powerhouse with artistic and street credibility to spare. His rapid ascent to stardom was actually almost a decade in the making, which gave him a chance to develop the theatrical image that made him one of rap's most distinctive personalities during his heyday. Well, I kind of beg to differ with him and Tupac because this guy was actually from the streets and he actually lived that. I think Tupac was kind of propped up to that, and we did a little thing on Tupac, and he went to a theatrical school, so that says a lot. This guy was straight from the streets.
Yeah.
Everything about DMX was unremittingly intense, from his muscular, tattooed physique to his gruff, barking delivery, which was a perfect match for his trademark lyrical obsession with dogs. There was also substance behind the style. Much of his work was tied together by a fascination with the split between the sacred and the profane. This is what I was talking about earlier with his duality. He could move from spiritual anguish 1 minute to a narrative about the sins of the streets the next, yet keep it all part of the same complex character, sort of like a hip-hop Johnny Cash. The results were compelling enough to make DMX the first artist to have his first 5 albums from 1998's It's Dark and Hot and Hell is Hot through 2003's Grand Champ. 200 at number 1. Year of the Dog Again, his last recording for Rough Riders, nearly extended the streak to 6 in 2003. Although he released his final proper studio album, Undisputed, in 2012, he continued to issue singles into 2021. Shortly after his tragic death that year, his 9th studio album and first posthumous material, Exodus, was released. DMX was born Earl Simmons in Mount Vernon, New York on December 18th, 1970. He moved with part of his family to New York City, suburbs of Yonkers, while still a young child. A troubled and abusive childhood turned him violent, and he spent a great deal of time living in group homes and surviving on the streets via robbery, which led to several run-ins with the law. He found his saving grace in hip-hop, starting out as I didn't even know that, as a DJ and human beatbox, and later moved into rapping for a greater share of the spotlight, taking his name from the DMX digital drum machine, though it's also been reinterpreted to mean Darkman X. He made a name for himself on the freestyle battle scene and was written up in the Source magazine's unsigned hype column in 1991. Columbia subsidiary Rough House signed him to a deal the following year and released his single debut, Born Loser. However, a surplus of talent on the Rough House roster left DMX underpromoted, and the label agreed to release him from his contract. He issued one further single in 1994, Make a Move.
DMX began to rebuild his career with an appearance on one of DJ Clue's underground mixtapes. In 1997, he earned a second major label shot with Def Jam, made a galvanizing guest appearance on LL Cool J's 4321. Further guest spots on Mace's 24 Hours to Live and fellow Yonkers MCs The Locks, with Money, Power, and Respect, created an even stronger buzz. And in early 98, he released his debut Def Jam single, Get At Me, Dog. The song was a gold-selling smash on the rap and dance charts and paved the way for DMX's full-length debut, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, to debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 in May 98. Produced mostly by Swiss Beats, who rode the album's success to a lucrative career of his own. It's Dark and Hell is Hot earned DMX numerous comparisons to Tupac for his booming, aggressive presence on the mic, and went on to sell over 4 million copies. DMX went on to make his feature film debut, co-starring Hype Williams' Belly. Before the end of 98, DMX completed his second album, and a pending buyout of Def Jam pushed the record into stores that December. Featuring a controversial cover photo of the rapper covered in blood, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood entered the Billboard 200 at number 1 and eventually went triple platinum. Following year, DMX hit the road with Jay-Z and Method Man / Redman team on the blockbuster Hard Knock Life tour. The Rough Riders posse, of which DMX was a core founding member, soon released a showcase compilation, Ride or Die Volume 1, with contributions from DMX as well as Eve, The Lox, and multiple guests. Ride or Die Volume 1 debuted at number 1 in the spring of 99, further cementing DMX's Midas touch.
Toward the end of 99, DMX released his third album, and then there was X, which became his third straight album to the debut at number 1. It also produced his bigger hit singles since Get At Me Dog, Party Up, which became his first top 10 hit on the R&B / hip-hop chart. The follow-ups, What You Want and What's My Name, were also quite popular, and their success helped make And Then There Was X in the rapper's best-selling album to date, moving over 5 million copies after he earned his first 2 Grammy nominations. And Then There Was X was up for Best Rap Album, and Party Up contended for Best Rap Solo Performance. Still a club banger, even after these years, man. I play that from time to time, still club banger. Clean version, of course. DMX returned to the big screen with a major supporting role in the Jet Li action flick, Romeo Must Die. His next movie, then the Steven Seagal action film Exit Wounds, opened at number 1 in the box office. DMX also contributed the hit single No Sunshine to the soundtrack and signed a multi-picture deal with Warner Brothers in the wake of his success. I gotta say, DMX had some acting skills as well. With the characters he played in his movies, he was a good actor, man. It's natural to him. It's very natural to him.
So he got hit from both industries to join the club. They all wanted him to be part of the dark side.
Yeah. I gotta say, when I watched some of his movies, and these are not like really deep movies, but in an acting perspective with the characters that he particularly played, he did a great job. I think the best job he did was that movie Belly. He portrayed that character to a T, and his duality showed in that. It definitely showed in that film Belly, where he was a thug, hardcore thug, and became a changed person. It's a good movie. It's a good movie if you're into the street movies, but definitely his acting was pretty good. DMX returned to the studio and completed his 4th album, the more introspective The Great Depression. It was released in the fall of 2001 and became his 4th straight album to debut at number 1. In late 2002, DMX published his memoirs as EARL, the autobiography of DMX, and also recorded several tracks with Audioslave. Oh, wow, that's quite a collaboration there, huh? One of their collaborations, Here I Come, was featured on the soundtrack of DMX's next film, a reunion with Jet Li called Cradle to the Grave. The film opened at number 1 upon its release in March 2003, and its DMX Heavy soundtrack debuted in the top 10. Grand Champ was released 6 months later and extended the rapper's streak of chart-topping albums. Year of the Dog Again, DMX's last recording through Rough Riders, was issued 3 years later and reached number 2. Just before the album's release, DMX's revealing BET reality program, DMX Soul of a Man, made its debut. A compilation titled Definition of X, The Pick of the Litter, followed in June 2007.
Well, that's an interesting title for a show. Soul of a Man.
Well, you know, he was going through his whole duality thing.
Yeah. Burdened by legal issues in the following years, DMX returned to recording with 2012's Undisputed, an effort released by the Seven Arts label with production from Swizz Beatz and J.R. Rodham that hit the top 20. Seven Arts also put out his unofficial 8th LP, Redemption of the Beast, in early 2015. Allegedly without a contract or authorization. The album resulted in the rapper taking legal action against the label. DMX collaborated with electronica artist Blackburner Skyla Talon for Dog Eats Rabbit, which saw release in the spring of 2017 by the Cleopatra label. He released a handful of singles into 2021. DMX suffered a quote-unquote heart attack and died a week later on April 9th, 2021 at the age of 50. A few weeks after his death, the release of his first posthumous album, Exodus, was announced. Kind of reminds me of Tupac's last album. Arriving in late May of 2021, the set featured contributions from Lil Wayne, Nas, Jay-Z, Bono, and more.
You got some sus
That's
names.
sketchy.
All those names are sus, man. All of those
Definitely
names.
sketchy.
Yeah. All of those names are sus right there. All right, that's the bio. But when you were saying that his last album, Exodus, kind of reminded you of Tupac, it's kind of like an exiting of life, right?
Right. Or at least the public eye.
Yeah. I think Tupac is gone, and I think DMX is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, DMX for sure. I mean, I know there were talks about he may have been, murked, but at the same time, you got to understand that he had an extensive drug problem, so it could have been bad drugs too. Like he could have done it to himself as well. So for me, sometimes I like to entertain the idea of he might have been murked, but I think in this situation with him, I'm leaning more towards he kind of did it to himself. That's where I'm leaning towards. Anyhow, let's see where we're gonna go here. What's next here?
That's an interesting album name there, Redemption of the Beast.
Where you at? Redemption of the Beast. Where is it?
It's that picture
right there. Oh, huh. It's almost foreshadowing. Not him, but foreshadowing the actual beast, right? Yeah, there was a lot of dualities in his music for sure. I can clearly remember one from this album, The Great Depression. What's the name of it? Man, it's not hitting in my head right now, but Who We Be. Who We Be is that's a duality song right there. It's a very interesting song. All right, so let's go here. This is a very long article from Rolling Stones, and it explains that because DMX said when he was living in Arizona, He said, quote, and we'll play the videos later on. I may be able to play it here. But he said that he met the devil 3 times, and he met the devil in God's country, which he considers Arizona as God's country. So we'll just go ahead and tap on this article for now, and then we'll go to other things as well. So this one's from Rolling Stones, entitled "How DMX Met the Devil in God's Country." In the late 2000s, the rapper went to the Arizona desert to make an album he hoped could save him. Then Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who's a real sheriff, in my opinion, and his own demons got in the way. And that one is by Ben Dandridge Lemko. And it's redo by Matthew Salacuse. In 2001, DMX went to Arizona to record his 4th album. By then, he had already become an unlikely superstar, a barking battle rapper turned crossover sensation, man. And his freestyles are just off the chain, dude. I think he did a battle with Jay-Z and destroyed Jay-Z.
Well, that's not hard to do.
Nas destroyed him too. He had channeled all the pain of his first 3 decades on Earth, all the rhymes that had been filling up the pages of his notebooks for years, into 3 multi-platinum albums. His single "Party Up," up in here, was breaking down the door to a new demographic of fans. Just a few years before, Puff Daddy had said DMX was unmarketable. He used to be feared in his own neighborhood in Yonkers, New York. I think they tried to say some people. Some people would avoid when they saw him coming around the corner with his dog. Now the whole world wanted a piece of X. After 3 years of nonstop movement, DMX found space to reflect in the desert, along with his go-to producers, his road managers, and his close friends. All the people who made sure his early albums came together. He rented a few houses in a quiet neighborhood in Scottsdale. Even after late nights, he would wake up early and sit by the pool reading the Bible. You see what I mean? He knows the word, but he just can't live by it. It's weird. They would pack buckets of chicken, fill a cooler with beer, strap rifles to their 4-wheelers, and ride out into the desert for hours until there was nothing around them but soil and sky. This was before Phoenix's outer suburbs had been developed. His exit was the last one on a stretch of highway that was still being built. It wasn't uncommon to pull up to a spotlight and see a pack of coyotes heading off toward the mountains. The environment was the opposite of where DMX had come from, far from the tall project buildings that kept one side of the streets shaded.
Early one morning, on the way back from recording all night at Phoenix's Chaton Studios, DMX pulled over on the highway. It was around 6 a.m. and the sun was starting to rise, the horizon in front of him transforming from deep purple to bright orange. 4 cars lined up, hazard lights blinking, and DMX's crew stood on the side of the road watching a new day begin over the Sonoran Desert. It was at that point that I fell in love with Arizona, DMX would later say in an interview with a local news affiliate. I said, you know what? This has to be God's country. During that 2009 interview, the reporter asked him questions from across a table in the visitation room of a Maricopa County jail. Wah, wah. DMX wears a black and white striped uniform with a pink undershirt, an infamous visual trademark from Joe Arpaio's reign as a local sheriff.
Real sheriff.
His hair and beard are grown out, the corners of his hairline receding into 2 deep V's. He speaks candidly and clearly, only pausing and getting choked up when he talks about missing his kids. He seems to laugh at his own naive view of the desert back then, or maybe at how much his life has changed over those past 8 years. Then I met the devil in God's country.
Earl Simmons often talked about his life as a battle between opposing forces, light and dark, blessing and curses, God and the devil. These themes are a constant presence across his music. Feel the pain, feel the joy of a man who was never a boy. He rhymed at the end of Look Through My Eyes from his multi-platinum 98 album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, offering a succinct guide to the journey he would lead his fans on for the rest of his career. DMX grew up in what were considered the roughest projects in a city that a federal judge would later rule had illegally and intentionally discriminated against black residents in its public schools and housing. His O2 autobiography is a vivid account of trauma, full of allegations of neglect and abuse and descriptions of overwhelming despair of the group homes and juvenile facilities where X spent much of his first 18 years. Religion was a beacon of stability in his life. From the Jehovah's Witnesses service he attended with his mother to his grandmother's Baptist faith. Wow, that's two extremes, man. Two different extremes. Many years later, he would say that he'd come to forgive his mother from the pain of his childhood. But when individuals and systems failed, DMX turned to the streets, committing robberies to feed himself and his addiction. The weight of his circumstances was supposed to crush him, like countless others whose name the world never learned.
Instead, for a brief few years at the turn of the millennium, he reached the pinnacle of American celebrity. As a chart-topping rapper, DMX, who died at age 50 in April 2021, embodied the extremes and lingered in their contradictions. On his albums, he cast himself as a preaching sinner, always reaching for the redemption that was just beyond his grasp. His power as an artist lay in the balance he struck between aggression and vulnerability. He could rob you in one verse and pray for you in the next. The menacing stories and snarling anthems wouldn't have been as effective if not for the conversations with God that always followed. The drug addiction that plagued DMX for most of his life was inseparable from the music that had delivered him. In a 2020 interview, he returned to a story he first told years before in his autobiography. When he was 14, he alleged, his mentor and first collaborator tricked him into smoking a blunt laced with crack. DMX's mentor, sounds like a bad influence, disputed some details of this account after the rapper's death. This guy introduced me to what would be the best part of my life, which would be the rap, he said through tears, still grappling with the betrayal.
Oh, man, it skipped.
But the thing with my life, it's blessed with a curse.
As DMX fell further away from his peak years, his trauma threatened to overshadow his talent. While living in Arizona in the late 2000s, with his career at an impasse, his marriage falling apart, and his arrests dominating headlines, he set out to record a double album that would put the desperate parts of himself back on equal footing. He named the project Walk With Me Now and You'll Fly With Me Later. The first side would be hip-hop, and the second side would be a gospel album, featuring the profanity-free spiritual rap songs that he had always reserved one slot for an album past. No songs about snitches with a B. No songs about robbing, just straight give God the glory, he said at the time. Though DMX completed the double album, it was never released as he intended. Some songs were put out against his stated wishes, and others have languished on hard drives for more than a decade. The project, and its gospel side in particular, became a forgotten part of his discography. Arizona, a place that had once been his refuge from the burden of being DMX, became another site of his self-destruction.
DMX always said a prayer before he performed. On stage, he ended his sets with the prayers that appeared on his albums. After his shows, depleted and emotional, he would pray again. Watching footage from a 1998 performance at the Apollo Theater is a visceral snapshot of the raw power and agonizing weight that he brought with him into the industry. The crowd that night in Harlem jumped, swayed, and shouted along to the Rowdy Singles, Rough Riders anthem, and Get At Me, Dog. He was dripping with sweat by the time he closed the show with the prayer from his first album, written years before in solitary confinement out of Westchester County Prison. He began to cry and shake, his coarse voice rising and cracking as he recited the prayer's closing line. So, if it takes for me to suffer for my brother to see the light, give me pain till I die, but please, Lord, treat him right.
From the beginning, DMX saw himself as a vessel. Ray Copeland, an uncle on his mother's side, and his manager early on, remembers sitting with X and the rapper's then-wife, Tashira Simmons, in the kitchen of the couple's first house in New Jersey, soon after X had signed with Def Jam. "I'm not just yours," he told them. "You have to share me with the world." But as his career exploded, the pressure became overwhelming. His childhood had been largely devoid of love, yet suddenly he was adored by crowds of people he'd never met. He didn't expect to get that much fame, even though he knew he was a great artist, says Joaquin Waugh, dean of Rough Riders, the label that helped launch DMX to stardom in the 90s. He didn't know how to receive the love.
On the road, DMX went out of his way to shirk the aura of celebrity. In every city, he sought out the most infamous neighborhoods. He spent hours hanging out in Chicago's Cabrini Green, gambling in the back of a barbershop in New Orleans' 3rd Ward, and eating Jamaican food in Brixton. He preferred home cooking to dining out and was always meeting someone whose mom or grandmother was happy to cook for DMX. We take them to the grocery store, get all the ingredients, and then go to strangers' houses and take over their living room and front porch, and they'd cook breakfast for us, said Ali Sami, his former road manager. This happened hundreds of times. Though the passion in DMX's performances never wavered, multiple former members of his road team say that their experience on tour was often defined by the rapper's rebellious side. He frequently delayed going on stage to perform until the very last moment. At times, it seemed like X was testing those close to him, seeing if they would quit on him like so many people in his life had before. That was hard for me, Sami says. He's your friend, and you keep making him do stuff he doesn't want to do in an industry where he's telling you these people are vultures and bloodsuckers.
Man, okay, I'm going to pause because there's something I got to say about when he wants to he wants a home cooked meal. You already can see that he's wanting to have a family. He's wanting to attach to kind of a family life. So he's seeking for that, man. And you know, the price that comes with fame, a lot of these people they don't know how to handle it, and definitely he did not know how to handle it, which leads him to test people in the wrong way. But I understand, especially if he's from the streets, I totally understand why he's testing people for their loyalty, and this also alludes to why he loves dogs, even though he was charged with dog fighting, he has an attachment to dogs because dogs are very loyal to their owners. So that's the reason why he would always reference dogs in his music, because the loyalty of a dog, at least when he was growing up, the loyalty of a dog is worth more than a loyalty of a human being. So that's the reason why he was so big into dogs, because of that loyalty. So I just thought I had to share that, because it was an observation when you're reading that he wanted a home cooked meal, is because he wanted to belong to a home, a normal home.
Yeah.
So you already see that he's reaching out for something that he never had. Which is sad, man, because this, I think his intentions of wanting to be good I think it was a good thing, but he was just surrounded by a lot of demons, man.
Yeah, and they all wanted a piece of what he was offering.
Yep. Unfortunately, he didn't know how to deal with that. All right. Even as he sold millions of records, DMX saw himself as being at odds with the music industry. In 2003, he announced that his fifth album, Grand Champ, would be his last. "I'm going into the church," he said, the first such proclamation in what would become an oft-repeated aspiration. In another interview soon after, he was more explicit about the reason he wanted to distance himself from the music business. "It's robbery, and I can't be a part of it anymore," he said. "You do so much for the record label, you make so much money for them, and then," give me a minute here, "and then, at the end of the day, you're nothing but a number." Jen Turner, DMX's assistant around this time, remembers seeing the rapper crying during the tour for Grand Champ and asking him what's wrong. "They stole my love," he told her. He had the number one album. He had a bunch of money, Turner says. He had all of the things that you would think would fulfill him. And he was miserable. Man.
Yep, that's how it typically turns out.
Man, this is a good article. We're reading this, man, because this not only tells us about DMX, but how the music industry treats their commodities,
Right.
I guess you could say.
In 2005, DMX returned to music, citing a conversation with Mace, who had left behind his own rap career to become a minister years before, as his inspiration. He was like, "As long as you have that talent, you don't have the right to say whether or not you want to use it," DMX said, recounting their talk. He turned his ire towards Jay-Z.
Oh, no.
That's understandable. Who had recently been appointed as president of Def Jam. The two had battled in the early 90s before either one was famous, and later that decade they'd made hits and toured together. As artists, they had always represented different vantage points. Jay-Z, the suave hustler, and DMX, the rugged underdog speaking for the downtrodden. Over the years, their paths had diverged even further. Darren D. Dean, Wah's brother and Rough Riders co-founder, says that Jay-Z cleared millions of dollars in debt that DMX owed to Def Jam and let him walk away with his music. "I told Jay to release him because he's not happy here," D recalls. X went to Columbia for 2006, Year of the Dog, again, which became the first album of the rapper's career not to debut above the top of the charts.
Wow, so Jay-Z had him. Huh?
Yep.
Bought his debts. Teixeira had been with DMX for more than a decade before his rise to fame, but by this time, his addiction and infidelity had begun to tear their marriage apart. She saw his drug use as a defensive reflex when the world's demands became too much. To block everyone out, normal people go on vacation, sit on the beach, stare at the ocean. I believe Earl resorted to what he had done in the past. He said it's the only time that nobody wanted to mess with him, and he loved that. Arizona, with its wide open expanses and lax gun laws, offered a different kind of escape from his traumatic past and strenuous present. After DMX's first trip there in 2001, Teixeira began looking for a house in the Phoenix area. They bought an Adobe-style home in the northeastern suburb of Cave Creek in '03. It sat on a few remote acres with horse stables and a pool that looked out towards the mountains.
Just a few years later, the dream was falling apart. I felt like he was out of control, Teixeira says. I thought we needed to take a break and separate, which Earl was not happy with. After their separation, DMX made the Arizona house his permanent residence. But as he spent more time in the desert, he started getting more unwanted attention. Police cars followed him home, pulling him over when he wasn't even driving. On August 24th, 2007, about a year after their separation, officers from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office raided DMX's home in Cave Creek, acting on a tip that dogs were being kept in inhumane conditions. They seized 12 malnourished pit bulls and dug up the remains of 3 other dogs on the property.
Oh, some illegal dog fighting was happening there, man. Man, this thing keeps skipping. Let me see. Where was I?
Down.
Yeah, it keeps.
There we go. Up. Where that break is where it's at. Keep going up. Yeah.
Okay. Dogs had been DMX's companions since childhood. They showed him how to love unconditionally, and they featured prominently in everything from his barking vocals to his album covers. But he had also pleaded guilty to animal cruelty in '02, stemming from an earlier incident at his New Jersey home when he was charged with neglecting 13 dogs. Wow. At the time of the Arizona raid, DMX was on tour and hadn't been in the state for months, his lawyer said. Earl had a caretaker who obviously wasn't taking care, attorney Murray Richmond said at the time. Earl loves those dogs. I'll get this one. Arpaio, in his first term as Maricopa County Sheriff, a real sheriff, I may add, was already gaining a national reputation for publicity stunts like the pink underwear in his jails and the time he hosted an inmate idol singing competition. He was also becoming a magnet for accusations of real cruelty. Critics charged that prisoners were killed and torturing during his 24-year regime, often while still awaiting trial. Maricopa County Sheriff's Office would later be hit with racial profiling lawsuits from the ACLU and the Department of Justice related to its indiscriminate sweeps and raids on local Latinx communities. And DT would ultimately pardon Arpaio in 2017 after the sheriff refused to comply with the judge's order to stop targeting people believed to be undocumented immigrants. In DMX, it seemed Arpaio found a perfect target, a troubled black celebrity who struggles with mental health and addiction were tearing his life apart at the seams.
In a lengthy statement to Rolling Stone, Arpaio calls DMX a career criminal, contests some allegations, and downplays others. Out of all the officers working on the streets and in the jail system, I recall only a few of my officers being investigated over allegations of torturing and killing inmates awaiting trial. Payments paid out because of lawsuits totaled about $85 million in almost 24 years. How many large police departments who don't even run jails have less than $85 million paid out because of lawsuits? The statement goes on to decry the ACLU and federal government's lawsuits over his immigration law enforcement as strictly politically motivated. When Pat Gallo first got to Arizona in the mid 2000s, he remembers meeting DMX outside a barbershop in Phoenix and being taken aback by the rapper's appearance. He wasn't in the best state. He's got the bald head with the sides of it all grown out, and his beard is all scruffy.
Gallo, an aspiring producer who'd grown up in Westchester County, was part of a crew of associates who worked on DMX's Arizona house. In between tilling the bathroom and hanging TVs, Gallo gave DMX a CD of his beats, one of which showed up on the rapper's next LP. In 2007, Gallo got a call from DMX out of the blue. The rapper had signed a new deal with Bodog Music, the newly formed label division of the online I know that company because I used to play a lot of online poker way back in X amount of years, and that was a big gambling site, Bodog. The newly formed label division of the online gambling company, and they had given him a budget for his album. I was just a young kid excited, Gallo says. I booked my own flight to get out of there. I'll read this one too. Gallo, who's white and close to the decade DMX's junior, says all the two had in common at first was music. At one point, early in Gallo's year-long stay in Arizona, DMX asked him for relationship advice. You got to do what you need to do to make yourself happy, Gallo recalls telling him. I think he realized the genius, and his eyes lit up. The guard went down.
At the time, DMX was hesitant to trust anyone dealing with his business. When an entertainment lawyer who hoped to represent him flew in, the rapper put him through a trial by fire. I need you to trust me, and I need to trust you. Gallo remembers X telling the lawyer. They were all standing in the kitchen of the rapper's house, and DMX picked up a handgun. Pulling back the hammer, taking out the clip, and emptying the bullets, he handed over the gun and told the lawyer to point it at his own head. You trust me, right? The lawyer looked down at the gun for a moment and then, screaming, pointed it to his temple and pulled the trigger.
Crazy, dude.
To avoid paying alimony and taxes, DMX didn't have a bank account at this time, according to sources with knowledge of his career. Instead of wiring DMX the money from his advance, an A&R rep at Bodog would fly down from Canada every few weeks with $10,000 in cash, the maximum amount allowed across the border without being declared. DMX had also lost his license after multiple driving-related arrests by this point, though that didn't stop him from getting behind the wheel.
Dang, 10 grand a week? So that's 40 grand a month? Oh my goodness, that's a lot of money, dude.
Yeah.
In cash. Let's see. When he got out of the booth, he was in tears. He was crying out to the Lord. Salt Mine Studio, where DMX recorded, was a little over an hour away from his home in Cave Creek. Gallo remembers the desert outside becoming a blur as the speedometer in DMX's yellow 1966 Chevy Nova crossed 130 miles per hour. It's like he tried to beat his time every time he left his house, Gallo says. The thing shook as soon as you hit 60, but he just pushed it. Despite the upheaval in his life, DMX was determined to execute his vision for Walk With Me Now and You'll Fly With Me Later. On the wall of the room at Salt Mine, he wrote out of the double album's title in black marker. Industrial metal pioneer Al Jorgensen was mixing a Ministry album in the studio next door. The studio owner Don Salter remembers the two musicians striking up a conversation about art and life in the hallway. DMX's sessions would usually begin after midnight and end with the sun rose. Then, very often, he would Take Us All to Denny's, Salter says. The first song that Gaio produced. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that you?
No, I was just going to say that would be an interesting Denny's trip.
I bet. Yeah. I bet you they were there till the sun rose, too. The first song that Gaio, who produces under the name Divine Bars, made with DMX in Arizona was Already, a chest-thumping track that sounds like it could have appeared on a Madden NFL soundtrack. In the verses, DMX rails against the fakeness of popular rap when it compared it with his own authenticity. There was an anger about him at the time, Gaio says.
When DMX was moved to record his gospel songs, the sessions took on a different kind of emotional intensity. A singer named Janice met DMX in 2005 when the rapper came into the Phoenix Nordstroms where she worked. Janice and her sister had won a talent competition and signed a record deal a few years earlier, but it never went anywhere. When DMX came into the store, her co-workers encouraged her to sing for him. She sang. He took down her number, and later she and Gaio spent long hours in the studio working on hooks and bridges for X's gospel album. After laying down her part for a song called Let Me Be Your Angel, Janice got out of the booth at Salt Mine and found DMX waiting for her. She remembers him being so inspired by the song that he went in and recorded 2 verses on the spot. I ask a lot of questions because I need a lot of answers. Sometimes I think I need to ask the questions faster, he raps. An earnest account of the trials and tribulations that always led him back to God. When he got out of the booth, he was in tears. He was crying out to the Lord.
DMX and Gaio recorded the bulk of the songs intended for the gospel album in a single night in 2008. They were up against the deadline to finish the project, and Gaio remembers... Oh my gosh, I hate when it does that. I don't know why it's doing that. Where was I?
The second line.
Okay. And Gaio remembers that it was difficult to get DMX to the studio that evening. He arrived in the early hours of morning and went up a spiral staircase to a loft. Then went into an upstairs bathroom to smoke crack. Oh my goodness. When he came out, he told Gaio to put on a beat, rapidly wrote a song, recorded it top to bottom in one take, and then climbed the stairs back up to the loft to repeat the whole process. Man, this guy was destroying himself. Wow. By the time the sun came up, DMX had written and recorded 7 gospel songs. Over time, Gaio began asking DMX questions about his addiction. At one point during their time living together, DMX asked Gaio to film him after he used to see how he looked when he was high. I wasn't comfortable doing that, Gaio says. I think he saw how I looked at him in that state. It wasn't him anymore. It was a scared person. Man.
At times, DMX would disappear for days. Once, when Gaio found him, DMX was having trouble breathing. Gaio says he took him to the hospital, even though DMX begged him not to. Sometimes I felt like I enabled him, he said. He knew I would always be there. Gaio says he and DMX lived under constant police supervision. Knowing DMX didn't have a license, he says officers would wait for the rapper to pull out of his property and then pounce. We couldn't leave the house without getting pulled over. Says Gaio, who lost his own license after he was stopped while driving one of DMX's unregistered cars to the store. Jeez.
On the night of May 8th, 2008, look at all the 8s here, man. On the night of May 8th, 2008, around 8 months after the initial raid, DMX, a cousin from Yonkers, and San, a longtime member of his road team, were hosting a few friends at the rapper's house When it started getting late, their friends left, but a few minutes later, they called back to the house. On the way out, they had seen a truck parked nearby with two men sitting inside. DMX's home in Cave Creek was surrounded by desert on all sides. There were only a few other properties in the area. DMX, his cousin, and San grabbed guns and rode out on four-wheelers. We don't know if somebody was trying to set us up or what's going on, San says. We felt like we had to protect ourselves. When they pulled up to the truck, the two men were standing outside. DMX asked them what they were doing, and one of the men said they were looking for a place to get high. X had the gun to his hand, started flipping out, and was like, "Get the out of here," San says. The men drove off, but now DMX was spooked. They all stayed up into the early hours of the morning with their guns close by. Around 3 a.m., DMX went into his bedroom and San nodded off on the couch. San woke up a few minutes later to a loud banging against the reinforced metal gate at the front of DMX's property. He opened the front door and heard screaming, "Police department, drop the gun!"
Turning back toward the living room, he saw a black-clad SWAT team holding M16s. Sam dropped to the floor, tossing his own gun on the couch. When he says, they started shooting rubber bullets through the glass. He felt an impact in his stomach, but looking down at his shirt, he didn't see any blood. He crawled through the kitchen. Then he heard another loud bang. I started hearing X screaming, like not normal screaming, at the top of his lungs. All you hear is glass breaking, walls breaking, and he's screaming. The sheriff department had driven a tank through the side of the house, San says. Later, DMX would tell San and Gallo that he had been sitting on the toilet when the front of the tank came crashing through his bathroom wall. Several search warrants were issued on DMX's property. SWAT teams were used on occasion due to the possible danger to my officers. We don't have a tank for enforcement activities.
I think this is just going through the case of it, man. But in a nutshell, I think I'm going to end it there because I think we can see the duality of him. He's struggling. He's struggling between, calling out to God, but at the same time, he's committing all these crimes, and he's using these drugs for him to make his gospel music, man. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to do a gospel song while you're high on crack?
Yeah. You're just inviting, like, really bad spirits at this point. So, yeah, we'll end the article there because, at this point, it's just talking about that case. And like I said, we don't really have that much time. But that was a good background as to who DMX grew up as.
That's crazy that the cops were so bent on arresting him for some reason.
Well, you got to consider, man, they're probably just, quote, and this is one of the reasons why I stopped police work, they were just, quote, following orders.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that.
They had to really suspect something huge to destroy the house with a SWAT team.
Well, you got to think about it, man. He had a debt to pay to somebody. You know what I'm saying? So who's to say that they don't, who's to say that they didn't want to mess with him?
Yeah, it's almost like Def Jam called in a favor or something.
We don't have the proof of that, but anything is possible with these people, man.
Yeah.
Anything is definitely possible with these people. So let's go ahead and do the lyrical breakdown, and then we'll go to the video of him talking about meeting the devil. But let's go with the lyrics first right now. Okay, so the song that we're talking about today is called The Omen, and it features Marilyn Manson. So you already know that this is going to be a dark song. So we'll go through here. The intro is just talking. But let's go through that too, because I think it builds it up to see where this story is coming from, because the song is a story. So in the beginning, it's in the intro, it's a woman sobbing, and she's pleading to God. She's going, "Oh God, please don't take my child. He's not ready to die. Oh God, he's gonna take him from us. I hear him coming. No, coming. Oh God, please don't take my child. What's this? He's not ready to die. God, he's going to take him from us." And the setting, I guess, in this particular part of the song is that she's in the hospital and her child is dying. All right. You can go ahead and do the first verse.
You still right here, Shorty. Told you I got you. Like the way I scooped you when them shot you. I'ma hold you down, and I mean that for real. But every time you beef with a I end up having to kill. But it ain't like that. And hey, forget about them 2 kids. About to get a deal, and it's as nice as you is. Oh, a deal, huh? Oh, you think? Nah, I'm just playing. What's up? Got some newbies. I know you're trying to not really. What I ain't your man no more? Just because doesn't need a hand no more? You know how we do. One goes soft. We take all the and yeah. It's like now, where you going? I ain't trying to take it. Blank, I won't make it. It'll be what it is. Yo, you in for the night? I'm about to take it to the crib. You get home all right?
So this is him. This is 2 characters in this first verse.
Right.
I'm just letting the people know out there. He's having this conversation supposedly with some spirit. It's him having this conversation with the spirit, but it's him rapping in 2 different voices, which is very interesting. All right, so the chorus, and then I'll go to.
And I'm taking not a very nice being. They're holding him down.
Oh,
I'm making him make a deal.
Oh yeah, yep. So here's the chorus. It says, "The snake, the rat, the cat, and the dog. How you gonna live when you're in the fog?" It repeats itself again. And then, okay, so check this out. The snake, the rat, the cat, and the dog. I was kind of curious as to why they picked these 4 different types of animals. And I did a little digging. I read this article, and somebody was talking about these 4 particular animals. And there's something about the characteristics of these animals that are very true when it comes to human behavior. So we'll start from the dog first. The dog is a very loyal animal to its owner. No matter what, the dog will always be there. And I think I've stated that earlier about why DMX loves dogs, is because a dog is very loyal. Now the cat, on the other hand, the cat is always interested in its own self-interest, and that's the only time that it'll go to if there's something beneficial for the cat will be there. As far as the rat goes, the rat, it's a dirty animal. It just does what it does. It does evil no matter what. It does the dirty stuff because that's just ingrained in their personality. Now the snake is a very interesting one because the snake is a very cunning and a very sly type of person. They trick you into believing what they're doing or what they're saying. And then you get screwed after that. So those are the 4 personalities that I found as far as why they use these 4 animals. Now we'll go to verse 2 here. Yo, I ain't with some no more. Word to my mother, it. So I'm for sure. Word to my brother, it's like he's gotten worse than before. Son of I wonder. What type of dirt is this blank got in store for me to get under? Then I get a call. Yo, X, police just killed your cousin underneath the projects. Don't get vexed. Blank, pay. Remember, I got you. Told you I got you. Dog, I got you. I'm in a catch-22. But then blank got to pay. But I know he gonna be asking for a favor one day. But blanket, I ain't got no choice in the matter. Them blanks killed my peoples, and I want to see him splatter. That's what I'm talking about. We ain't on no kid blank, and I'ma use the same gun that you killed them 2 kids with. Is that hard to live with? Nah. See? You still a player. But what you want from me? I'll tell you later.
Stuff is all over the news. Bomb goes off in Central. What have I gotten myself into? The mental is like, get the F out of there. I'm out. Hey, going somewhere? Oh, there's that being. Nah. What's the bag for? Screw it. What you want? Can you come inside for a minute and puff a blunt? Here we go again. After what I just gave you? Wasn't acting like that when you asked for that favor. Yo, I ain't asked you for anything. Oh, yes, you did. When you really needed something, then you allowed me to give. That says something right there.
Yep.
You allowed me to give. That means you made a deal. You sold me your soul when you didn't say no. Just let a fool go. Now give me what you owe, his life.
Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking? Ain't nothing for free. Ain't a fool you know can defeat me. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, and with your help, I know the devil won't win. But he's already made a deal.
Mm-hmm. And it ends off with Marilyn Manson saying, you know, these words over here on the screen. I'm not going to say them because it could be a casting of a spell too if I was to say it. So it's pretty clear here, man, that. And okay, so now I kind of understand why the snake reference comes in first. Is because the snake is very sly in what they do. You know? It's very sly in what they want to do, and the artists themselves don't even know what they're doing, but yet they like what they're receiving. And it says here, right? It says here, when you really needed something, then you allowed me to give. You sold me your soul when you didn't say no. Right?
Yep. That's the key one right there.
Yep. I agree. That is so telling. When you really needed something, you allowed me to give. You sold me your soul when you didn't say no. And you know, the song would totally make sense when you hear it, because it's DMX rapping as 2 entities. He's rapping as himself and he's rapping as the devil. It's a very interesting rap. Sounds cool. I mean, if I was to listen to secular music the way I used to, I'm like, yeah, I can dig this, but I'm not into that kind of stuff anymore. Especially if it's talking about the devil. But this song in particular is more like it's him kind of selling his soul in the song. It's not glorifying something, or it's the message here is not hidden. It's just right out there. So
yep, he asked the wrong being for help.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let me see if I can share this video real quick. Let me just take us out of this here. Put us back on the Zoom. Let me take out the share screen real quick. Stop share. And I believe is that the 3-minute one that you sent me?
Yeah, the first one is.
Okay. That's the one where he's in that interview telling that he met.
Yeah, that's the one he's talking to Dr. Phil.
Okay.
You said in your lyrics you
Okay. Hold on. Sorry. I'm getting this set up.
The audio is a little faint on it for some reason.
Okay, so I'll probably have to lower that down so it don't kill people's ears. Let me go on the share screen here for you first. Share the sound. I hope the audio doesn't break, but if it does, I apologize if the audio goes bad on us, if it skips like it was earlier. All right, so let me just fix this here real quick with the audio. Maybe I have to mess around with it first. Okay. All right, so go ahead and put yourself on mute there, Java, real quick. Okay, so this was an interview that he did with Dr. Phil. This is fair use because we're definitely talking about this. It's for educational purpose for sure because we're having a discussion about it. So to the YouTubes, this is all fair use. So I'll see you guys in a minute after this video clip.
You said in your lyrics you bare your soul.
Yes.
So you really open up and bare your soul. And I want to take a look at some of the lyrics from your song.
When I picked the lyrics.
Who We Be. I think you'll like these lyrics. The hurt, the pain, the dirt, the rain, the jerk, the fame, the work.
I like what you said.
Yeah.
Did it.
The friends, the foes, the bins, the hoes, these studios, the shows. Why don't you just read it? I like the way you read it.
It comes and it goes. The jealousy, the envy, the phony, the friendly, the one that gave him the slugs, the one that put him in me, the snakes, the grass, too long to see. The lawnmower sitting right next to the tree. It's right there. Just mow that grass and you'll see the snakes.
Yeah. So you write
everything I say, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's you write all of your songs.
All of my lyrics. I wouldn't be able to call myself an artist if I didn't write.
You've had, I guess I would call it a gospel song, or certainly
gospel song and a conversation with the Lord on every album.
On every album. Lord, give me a sign. I pulled some of those lyrics out. Tell me what these lyrics are and what they mean.
It's a conversation with the Lord. I really need to talk to you, Lord. Since the last time we talked, the walk has been hard. Now, I know you haven't left me, but I feel like I'm alone. I'm a big boy now, but I'm still not grown. I'm still going through it, pain and the hurt, soaking up trouble like rain in the dirt. And I know only I can stop the pain with just a mention of my Savior's name. In the name of Jesus, devil, I rebuke you for what I go through and trying to make me do what I used to. But all that stops right here. As long as the Lord's in my life, I will have no fear. I will know no pain from the light to the dark. I will know no shame. Spit it right from the heart, because it's right from the start that you held me down and ain't nothing they can tell me now. Lord, give me a sign.
You've had a song on every album, A Conversation with God.
Yes.
You've had
and a prayer.
And I think you've had
three conversations with the devil.
With the devil. Why with the devil?
Well, to make a fair decision, I think you have to be aware of both sides. And I was approached, so of course I had a conversation. It doesn't mean I rode with him or believed him. I just was able to recognize him by what he said to me and what he offered me. Say, oh, now I know you are. That's why I stopped talking to him. I put out 7 albums, but he's only on 3.
Right. All right, we'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right. You can go ahead and unmute my friend.
Yeah, so even admitted right there that he was approached. He was like, I was approached by the devil, so he had to mention him.
Yep.
That was interesting. That's good that he admitted it. Like he just straight said that he was offered, he was offered the deal.
Yeah. You know, it's sad, man, because this dude, he was talented, man. He was very talented. He was, even though he came off as somebody who was like aggressive and rough as a rapper, he was very charismatic, man. He knew how to deliver a message out there, especially when it came to one of, like, I think in his albums he always had a prayer. And I'll share that. I'll share one of those prayers too, on the other end, because we can't share it on the tubes. So I guess this is the part when I have to. This is the part where I have to tell the YouTube's people that I have to let you guys go. But I will say that if you do want to come over, you can always come over to my Twitch channel. And I'll put my tree link out there real quick. And if you go to my tree link, you'll find. Hold on for a moment. So I'm trying to multitask here. Tubes. Matter of fact, here I'll give you my Twitch link and my Foxhole link. Give me a minute here as I try to do this. And the only reason why I'm giving you these links is because I cannot share the music videos here. There is no music video for this particular song, but there are lyrics that play while the song plays. So you're more than welcome to come over to any of those channels over there that I put out on the link on the YouTubes. So you can kind of, follow us and just listen to the lyrics of the song. And I'll also share one of the prayers that because even the prayers are very strong prayers, man. But unfortunately, this guy was living in duality with evil and good, and both can't dwell in the same house. There's always got to be one that you got to choose from. And in my opinion, I think he chose evil. Even though he was struggling back and forth, I understand that because we're all sinners. At the end of the day, we're all sinners. But if you really take your walk with Christ seriously, you do the best you can to take his side. And, Christ, he came here in the flesh, so he understands the struggles that we go through on a daily basis. And I'm pretty sure he knows the hearts of his true followers. Even if they do fall from time to time, I think he knows who his true followers are. But I think DMX chose. I think he chose the world more than he did his walk with Christ. And the reason why I say that is because he succumbed to the drug use, and he was set up for failure from the get-go. He did not have a stable home. He was introduced to drugs at a very early age. Not to say that you can't come out of that, but he made it consume him. He allowed those weaknesses to win. And I don't believe everybody's like that. I think there are people there's a very small percentage of people who are strong and are able to overcome those things. But for him, he just couldn't do it. And I think he wasn't able to handle the fame that he got too.
Right. And I don't think he ever actually got over his addiction.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Throughout the fact that one of the last albums he made, when he was recording a gospel album and he was on crack the whole time.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
Just kind of, and when you use such things so much, so often, it really leaves the mind open for beings to intercede and to take over and stuff.
The wrong spirits will definitely enter the realm once you open that up. You're not protected. Like, you have no protection because you can't. Your state of mind of discernment is just gone. It's just gone. Your guard is totally down. And it's a shame because he knew scriptures too, man. The guy knew scriptures too, but like I said, you may know scriptures, but do you walk it? Do you live it? You know, it's sad. It's very sad. So, anyhow, thank you guys on the YouTube side for coming by. I know a lot of people couldn't stay long, and I don't blame them because the article was kind of long. But DMX is a very interesting character, man. You know, I have to give him props where props is due because he was fighting the fight, but apparently he let the world take over. He let the worldly things run his life as opposed to just sticking with the word of God and just walking down that path with and putting his full trust into God. Because I honestly think that he didn't have full trust. He was still teetering and tottering. He was a lukewarm. So that's what happens, man. And, you know, this
He
is
didn't really have anyone spiritual helping him uphold that side of him.
Yeah, that's another thing, too. You got to surround yourself with people like that. Because if you don't, I mean, not to say that's impossible to do it by yourself, but the percentage is very low for you to overcome, especially coming from bad addictions. It's hard. It's a very hard battle. So, anyhow, thank you for the people on the YouTube side. Is there anything you want to promote before I let the YouTubes go?
Yeah, if you want to check out my podcast, you can go for 4 minutes and 20 seconds. It's on Spotify, iTunes, which I guess is Apple Music, Google Podcast, Amazon Music Podcast, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and Podchaser.
Well, you know what? If there's a link there, let me see if I can try to find a link here, okay? 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Is that typed? I don't know if it's typed in as words or numbers.
There's numbers and words. The number 4.
Okay.
The word minutes, the number 20, and the word seconds.
On Spotify. Let me get that link out there. Give me a minute. No, that's not it. Podcast.
It has a lime green kind of logo with the record.
Do you have it on your Pilled channel?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go to your channel real quick.
I have the Podbean link.
Hold on, man. My computer's not oops.
Well, if you can't find it, that's all right.
No, we're gonna find it. Let's see here. Go to channel.
Yeah, it's under the info tab.
Okay. There it is. Okay, let me copy and paste that. All right, I just put it there on the chats on the YouTubes. So check them out. It's not what you think it is. It's actually pretty good humor. I don't think it's vulgar. At least
it's family friendly.
Yeah, at least
I don't talk about anything that you couldn't play for anybody.
There you go. Yeah, no, because the episodes that I've heard, there's no vulgarity in it. So it's not what you think it is. People might think, yeah, it's about weed. No, it's not.
No, that's actually just the how long the show is.
There it is. So you heard it from him. So we thank you guys on YouTube for joining us tonight. And, we hope to do another one next Sunday, God willing. If I don't get any kind of gigs or events that I do, then we'll probably do another one next week, Sunday. But till then, thank you for joining us on the YouTube side. And if you want to come by for the rest of the show, it's probably going to be another 30 minutes, 20-30 minutes. And we're going to call it a night. It'll be on the Twitch channel or the Foxhole channel. So you're more than welcome to come over. So God bless, and we'll see you the next time when I go on live for fellowship and also for this show. So good night.